This ain't your light kind of love, your like kind of love, your I'm not sure kind of love. No, this ain't your past midnight kind of love. Hold me tight only when we're out of sight kind of love. Ain't treating me right kind of love. This ain't your just want to hit kind of love. Only intimate when we're intimate kind of love. Don't want a relationship kind of love. Until you meet the next chick kind of love. You can miss me with the bull kind of love because this is a billion excuses kind of love, that useless kind of love. This ain't that if you love me, then do this to prove it kind of love. That we're taking it slow, going nowhere kind of love. 8 months and none of your boys know my name kind of love. Loneliness prevention kind of love. Getting hit up by the baby mama you forgot to mention kind of love. No, this ain't no, just do it kind of love. Give some grace and you repeatedly abuse it kind of love. Confusing repeat visits with commitment like it's love. Nah, we know better. This ain't no only call when it's cuffing season kind of love. Text me when my new pic on social media gives you a reason kind of love. This ain't no can't talk to you when I'm sober kind of love. This ain't that hit me when your period is over kind of love. You still looking for the one and I'm her placeholder kind of love. This ain't no I'm not in love with you. I just got love for you kind of love. This ain't that love. This ain't that too scared of the past to be present for you kind of love. That dealing with mommy and daddy issues kind of love. Do I stay? Do I go? You can't choose kind of love. Nah, I'm not confused about love because this ain't love. This ain't love. See, nah, this is that real deal type love. That real deal type love. Whoever's home first cooks the meal type love and clean my plate, even though your chicken is hard like steel type love. This that granny panty type love. This that you like me even when you can't stand me type love. This that got inside jokes with members of your family type love. I'm family type love. Anniversaries we sometimes forget, but can't remember life before we met type love. Building empires together so we both could be set type love. Sharing hate for Sally Mae, dealing with that student loan debt type love. This that text me when you wake up and when you get home type love. This that giggling like we're teenagers, like I'm not grown type love. This that might get pissed, but we check our tone type love. No comparisons. My mistakes are my own type love. Been mad years in each other's eyes, we still stare type love. I'll get the tweezers, pluck your ingrown hairs type love. Not afraid to take the next leap type love. Put a ring on it to make the commitment complete type love. This that rock type love. That smooth pebble type love. Skip together over rough seas. Never settle for less than love type love. This ain't that kind of love. This ain't sort of love. This that love. This that ignore what the world calls love. This is the only type of love. This is love.
Black Out Loud Media Group. Welcome back to another episode of the Brown Sugar Cafe podcast, the place where poetry meets conversation. I'm your host, Terrence P. Elmore, and before we get into today's topic, make sure you hit that plus sign so you don't miss an episode. Also, please subscribe to my blog, thebrownsugarcafe.blog, and if you find any value in this episode or any other episodes, make sure you leave a heartfelt review. So with that being said, let's get to it.
Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Shanelle Gabriel. That's Shanelle with SHANELLE, Gabriel like the angel, hailing from Brooklyn, New York, by way of Trinidad and Tobago. But glad to be here. Glad to be here and been sharing poems. That's actually that poem, Kind of Love, is actually a song featuring a friend of mine, D.
Okay.
Woods, sings the hook on that. So, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. What was the inspiration for that?
Well, a big part of that was, I think it was like watching social media and how social media
Yeah.
has been dictating the narratives around relationships. And it's very unfortunate. And I kept looking at these things that people were like, yeah, sometimes he don't call me, but he loved me. Like it was just all of these
Yeah.
narratives that didn't feel healthy. And so I tried to put some of the ones that I thought I was in love or was going towards love and doing and dealing with. And I kind of triggered myself and wrote that poem. But wanted to also challenge, like, what does it actually look like? And
Yeah.
what's the real thing?
Yeah. There's a part in there you mentioned, and I'm glad I get a chance to ask you this. When you said it's that rock type love,
Mhm.
did that have anything to do with the TV show at all? Because that's where
Oh,
it took me.
see, dating yourself. That's what just
I know.
happened. I mean, that's a good parallel. No, I was just thinking about, how rocks, I mean, we think about rocks as weighted. This is something that's
Yeah.
solid. This is something that sometimes gets chipped away at, but at the root of it, it stays solid. And then thinking about, like, it followed the I guess, yeah, the metaphor, skip together over rough seas, skip together over rough seas. Like, just this idea is we're so solid, but we still figuring out how to navigate all of the ups and downs in life together, and
Yeah.
doing it like almost effortlessly.
Okay. Okay.
But I, I love, that's the thing I think about art is so beautiful. Poetry, all of art, it's always like subject to our own experiences. Sometimes it
Right.
touches and brings things to our mind in different ways. So yeah.
I love how you put moments in there that make you think, but it also makes you laugh. And when I found out years ago that you were on Def Poetry Jam, back and looked, and I was like, I remember this. And that poem, it was full of a lot of turns and things. Like, when you create pieces like this, how important is it for you to add a light humor to it? Is that intentional, or, because I remember one time talking to a poet and he said something about when we write poems that are maybe filled with trauma or anything like that, we want to leave some hope in there somewhere because you don't want to take people down this road the whole way. So with pieces like that, this one you just read and that one from Def Poetry Jam, like, what was the intentionality with those?
Well, for me, I try to write as me, and I am not a serious person.
Okay.
I can get serious, but a lot of times I love to laugh. I laugh at myself all the time. And so for me, it's important to have that balance. Like you said, I do think it's important for there are poets that are really very much focused on the issues, on the impact that situations and events have had on their lives and in the world around us, and that's super important. And there's also a need for just what we go through in life. I laugh at some of my exes and situations that we were
Yeah.
in. Even when I was like, "What was I doing with that man?" But I think that's
Yeah.
human, and I think the full spectrum of emotion and of humanity deserves to be in art. And so that poetry, I literally, it wasn't about one person. I really try to think of different people. Same thing for Kind of Love. I try to channel, like, what are the different elements of experiences that I've had
Okay.
in relationships that were conflicting, but somehow still kind of worked, or somehow we navigated through it. And so, yeah, those are the two.
Okay. Okay.
But a lot of my poems, even they might be serious, there's always like something to kind of giggle at in the middle
Yeah,
somewhere.
yeah, I appreciate that because it's a shocker, but then it fits so well. It's like, oh, okay, that's very clever. I didn't think about that, and it's like I maybe needed that moment to kind of laugh right now because you're also an activist, and so some of your poems have they're very passionate and they touch on real issues like you said earlier. So to have that refresher in there, it kind of, to me, it brings me back from thoughts of things that I've gone through personally or things that I'm seeing. Is just like, okay, yeah, this is happening, but we can still smile. There's still joy somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. We need the joy. We can't just live in the pain. And it's easy to live in the pain. It's easy to remember pain. Pain is easier to remember. That's a part of, they say that's a part of biology, because our
Yeah.
bodies are wired to try to keep us alive. So we're gonna remember the pain. But man, we gotta fight for that joy and find that joy. So yeah, even I have a poem for living about lupus, and like, I made sure that that it wasn't, I had two poems actually
Okay.
about lupus. The first one no one will ever hear in life. It's in an old chat book I put out in like 2006. I'm dating myself, but it was very, very sad and very
Yeah.
heavy. And then I was like, my diagnosis doesn't have to be this heavy thing. It can be something people can listen to and learn from. And that, like, yeah, I was living a regular life, hollering at dudes and trying to get work done and
Yeah.
you know, but yeah, I try in a lot of my poems and this is something I've been thinking about maybe a lot lately as I'm trying to explore different different styles of writing and different concepts and conversations is like I'm not good at ending a poem in a bad note. Like I always end it, well, where is this
Yeah.
silver lining? And that's kind of but that's how I try to operate in the world.
And I appreciate that. I remember your poem Vanity.
Mhm.
That's another one that just took me through these different things. Do you perform that one still?
I wish I could write another lupus poem, but it's just so hard. Like that was the
Yeah.
diagnosis,
Yeah.
and a lot of times I'm explaining lupus. It's one of the best poems I have to explain lupus, explain how it can change a life. Because a lot of people don't still, even though it's really, really growing in popularity, like a lot of
Yeah.
people know about it, it's still not always understood.
Right.
And so I honestly still I don't think I could ever it's my roots, you got me, like I can't I
That's a
can't
good
put it
comparison.
down,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know. Look at me comparing my poem to the roots. But no, it is
Yeah.
that for me. Like I don't think there's any other way to really explain my diagnosis. Other than that, like that literally walks you through it. And I think it's just important for people to really know like how it can just kind of sneak up on you. And also how important it is for everybody, lupus or not, to really value themselves. And these are that's a lesson that I had to figure
Right.
out and I still forget and have to figure out again. So, as long as the message is needed, it's gonna get repeated. Boom, that rhymed.
My wife's mother, when my wife was 19, her mother passed away from lupus, and at that time it was really a lot less known about it. And like you said, now it's being more awareness is being brought to it. We're kind of understanding it more. You're a multifaceted person. You're an activist. You're an artist. You sing. How do you navigate with your diagnosis and still finding the time to do these different things?
Well, who's balance. That word, I was just talking to a friend of mine about this idea of balance and how balance doesn't look like an even scale, how it shifts from
Right.
left to
Yeah.
right. It's just, I kind of have to build it in. I forget. I forget. I won't say that I've always been good about figuring it out, but for me, with everything that I get to do, I try to build in these moments of calm where if I'm on for 3 days I have a day off. If I'm on during the day I take it easy that night. And I just try to be strategic about that. I fly red eye flights because I like to sleep on planes. I'm one of the people that knocks out on a
Yeah.
plane, so it's
Sometimes me
like
too. Yeah.
oh I they start, so here's the seat belts, I'm out, I'm asleep.
Okay.
So for me, it's like, oh, I'd rather take a red eye so I can sleep there and have that nap before I jump into whatever I have to jump in when I get there. So it's just like knowing my body. I think that that's a big part of it is for everybody to know their body and know how to listen to their body, what their body needs, learn what their body needs. I also have really good people that keep me accountable and yell at
Oh,
me when I
yeah.
don't sit still for too long. My dad is one of them. You're burning the candle at both ends. My dad is one of them. You can't go keep going and going and going. Take yourself
Right.
and rest yourself. Well, you're haunted. Let's just say you're haunted, like a ghost, just
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
rest. So yeah, I just those are the things that I think help me. I have the things that bring me peace, and I try to fuse those in. Working out, I have to build those things in and structure is my thing. Everything is on my calendar.
That's very important, having people in your corner, somebody to tell you, like you say, hey, slow down, you're doing too much. Because we
Yeah.
can get caught into just doing things, and it's just like next thing you look around, it's like I've done about 10 things, and did I stop to eat? Did I stop to drink some water? Just simple stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I got a big old jug of water right next to me that I've been swigging on. So I'm just it's hard sometimes, just like I said, it's just, really, really balancing and really thinking and
Yeah,
prioritizing. I think it was really challenging. I travel a lot, so it's like, oh wait, I gotta go see my family,
yeah,
and sometimes as much as I love my family, I'm like, I need to rest today, and as much as they re-energize me in a different way, I might need to see them this other weekend. Like I have to really, and I've been trying to be good about doing that, especially because, my lupus, acts up
yeah.
sometimes when other things are going on seasonally. And I might need a little bit more of a break, a lot more rest around that time.
Yeah, as you said earlier, you're on the go a lot. Every time I look around, I see you on stages, you're performing big events for major companies. When did you start writing poetry? And was this a goal of yours, or is this something that just happened?
I was always a writer. I liked to write as a kid. I like to read. I really loved reading as a kid. I was the kid that got in trouble for reading during math,
Wow. Yeah.
and my running joke was like when I was over school, like I was ready to graduate and I was checked out, I would cut school and go to the library and read Harry Potter books, like by myself, like no friends, by myself in the middle of the day. Um, which is not good. Kids don't do
Right.
that. Go to class. I was already getting A's by then. But no, I think I've always loved words. I loved hip hop growing
Me
up. I
too.
was more into music.
Yeah.
Music was my thing. I was a hip hop head, even though I was a singer. And I sang in the choir in church. I tried to do this. So I tried to do the music industry thing. And, I used to work out of a studio in East Flatbush that was run by DJ Clark Kent.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
he's known me. It's always crazy when you think back. I'm like, you've known me since I was like 15. But I used to do hooks for rappers, and but that world didn't seem like the world I wanted to be a part of, like as far as entertainment and the commercial spaces. So I just said I was going to focus on being maybe an executive or maybe a radio host. So those are all the things. That's what I went to college for, was
Okay.
communications. And while I was there, a friend of mine threw an open mic. I went to sing, and there were poets there, like spoken word poets. And I'd seen it before because we brought another person who's in Def Poetry Jam, who's a friend of mine, Gemini.
Okay.
We
Yeah.
brought him, yeah, we brought him on campus. So I'd seen spoken word, E Baby out of DC. We brought him, but I never thought of me. And going to that open mic was the first time I watched some people just tell their story through poetry. And I was like, I think I could do that. And I was addicted. And that's how I fell into and fell in love with poetry. And that was like right before I graduated college. I was so late. Growing up in New York City,
Yeah.
like so many avenues, I didn't discover it until so late.
That's what I was wondering, because, and I hear it as I'm thinking, man, she probably was doing this since she was like 6, and
Transferable skills. I was in church. My sister was the choir director,
yes, yes.
so I sang praise and worship and led, and so I'm used to speaking in front of people, and I've always been very comfortable talking to people. I'm a people person, and so performing for me is just a big conversation, a conversation with a whole lot of
Ah,
folk in at once. Like that's how I look at
yeah.
performing. I have tripped on stage and laughed, with the audience. Like I am very much, I've stuttered. I don't take it as serious as like, oh my God, I have to be this. I'm very much myself. And I've always kind of been that kid, that person. So it just translates the same way.
You know, the last couple episodes, I've had some spoken word artists on, and I'll recite my poems, but I don't know what's happening. But talking to you all is really making me want to jump into some spoken word, because like hearing you all perform, I just sit in awe because of the cadence, the delivery, and I'm just like, man. And I guess the popular term right now may be imposter syndrome, but it's just like, I'm a writer, poet, I write, but spoken word, I'm like, do I really belong in that avenue? But talking to you all really has me wanting to at least try one time, and I might have experience like you where I'm like, oh, I love this. I can't get enough.
I mean, I feel like there's a battle challenging of opinions. I argue with one of my friends all the time about it. Like, spoken word is different from page poetry. And I'm like, if it's a terrible poem on the page, it's going to be terrible when
Oh
you
man,
read it,
yeah.
and vice versa.
Yeah.
Like, I have to edit, I write my poems. There are very few people I know that got that one take hold, just be like, say it 3 times. And I don't have that. And I write my work down and I edit it the same way I would. I definitely understand that some things don't flow on page the same
Right.
way. I understand that, trying to write some of my poems don't necessarily flow or read, if I don't have the context or the intonation. But definitely I have other poems that very much belong, and I know that that's the next thing that I need to work on is a book. I've never published. As a singer, I've always made studio
Right. Yeah.
albums, production. So I do know that that's the next thing for me. But that's a part of it is, a lot of times that imposter syndrome or thinking that it has to be one way. And I have, as somebody that has hosted open mics before, I love the fact that everybody's voice is different.
Yeah.
I think that I don't, I know what quote unquote, and I use air quotes, bad poetry is like, where it's like, okay, I don't know where you going with this,
Yeah.
but to me, a lot of times bad poetry is I just don't get what you're trying to say, and I don't feel like you believe what you're trying to say. So I think that's my
Yeah.
definition. Like, not everybody. Some people are like, no, that was bad. But I feel like when you add the conviction of like, this is what I went through as I'm reading it, if I'm able to embody and channel what the source of what made me write
Yeah.
this, then you just did a spoken word poem. You just spoke the words and we felt it. So I think you should.
Yeah. I'll keep you posted. I was gonna
Let me know.
I was gonna ask you about it. Like, do you find a difference in writing a poem versus, writing something that you're gonna perform? But you answered that. Yeah.
No, it gotta be, I gotta be able to
Yeah.
share it. I mean, and everybody has their mediums. I don't wanna say that everyone, like I said, I feel like there's a space for everyone. There are folk that are able to stand still and talk like this the whole time
Yeah.
and move the whole crowd,
Yeah.
like without, and then there's people that are super serious. Then there's like, Sister Soldier,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
like, there's all these voices that we know. And I mean, there was, I feel like when I was coming into spoken word, I did start feeling pressure to sound a certain way. Um, and yeah, there's, definitely a difference in my voice, but I always try to be, for the most part, most of my work is very
It
conversational,
is. Yeah.
you know, telling a story or explaining something. But I think every voice is necessary, and I think spoken word is just bringing the words to life from the page. You know, sometimes it's from memory, sometimes it's from the page, and a lot more people are not memorizing poems. I'm noticing
Yeah. I'm
this.
noticing that too.
That used to be a bad word, like you don't memorize. Ooh. A lot of people got their phones up
Yeah.
there on
Yeah.
stage.
Yeah. When I see that, I'm like, so this is even giving me more of a reason to try because I don't necessarily have to memorize. So I'm running out of excuses here.
Think all of the reasons it's poking at
Yeah.
you for a reason.
I'm gonna give it a shot. I'm gonna give it a shot. You mentioned earlier about just your love for hip hop, and one of the projects I remember seeing you on was a Foot Locker commercial. What was that experience like? You were in the back of the cab just flowing. What was that experience like? I think Fat Joe was on the commercial too. Yeah, what
Hmm.
was that like?
It was fun. I'm used to being around old school rappers. I feel like I mean, I don't know if Fat Joe feels like he's an old school rapper. I don't know if he'd appreciate being called
Yeah.
that. But I'm around a lot of the OGs over the years. I've done work with like Eric Sermon. I'm currently working on some things with Grand Puba,
Oh,
just
yeah.
different people, you know, um, Redman back in the day, real briefly, so it was a lot of respect, but it's one thing everybody knows me as is the human radio. If it came out in the early 2000s, in the 2010s, I probably know all the words to
Okay, okay.
it. So, or if it was like a popular
Yeah.
song, or if it was an album I loved, like I know the whole DMX. It's dark as hell and hell
Yeah,
is
me
hot.
too.
Like I know that
Yeah,
whole
yeah.
album, and maybe two things, two songs. Certain albums I'm gonna go in. So it was very on brand for me. But that was a commercial really
Yeah,
that I was able to be a part of in honor of the Air Max, was it 90s, 90,
I
92s? I
think
can't
so,
remember.
yeah.
But fun fact, I did not get the sneakers at the end.
Are you serious?
But I got that.
Oh, well, hey, that's give me a check over a pair of sneakers any day.
And Rob was like, "So you had them sneakers?" I was like, "No."
Wow, I just thought it was automatic, yeah.
It was all it was it was a cool
Yeah,
project
yeah.
to be a
Okay, okay.
part.
So, as far as inspiration goes, we talked about this earlier. I guess it's kind of answering the question, but you're an activist as well, and you sing. When there's something you're writing that needs attention, do you find yourself, I guess, kind of battling whether you want to write a song about it or a poem? And I know you mix the two sometimes. So, how's that process?
Ooh, I have so many things I have not written because I sat there and was like, "Is it a poem? Is it a song?" I've definitely had like these like freeze moments where like a thing was started out and I was like, "I don't know what this is. I don't know what to do. I'll do it another day." And but it is a challenge sometimes. Sometimes melodies come to me. I have quite a few songs that started out as poems. On my second album, there's a song called Damn Near that
Mhm.
started out as a poem, a full poem. Like that one, yeah, I pulled from different people, but it was very much a moment of that was a catalyst. And I woke up at 2 a.m. and was like, and I was supposed to record. Well, I guess I was supposed to record Aim High, but I was like, nah, we gotta do this thing that I have. I was in Atlanta with a friend of mine, Christopher Bradley, who's an amazing
Mhm.
producer and songwriter and writer and singer. And I was like, yeah, we're supposed to do this poem I got called Aim High, but I have this other thing I think I want it to be a song. And I was like, I hear this.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay, okay, I'll follow you. And so sometimes poems can turn into other things. Sometimes it provides the framework for lyrics, for melody. More Than One of a Kind is on that album. That was also another thing that was a poem that turned into a song. And yeah, same thing. I like mixing genres. I've always liked that. Sometimes I'll rap. I never called myself a rapper. I respect MCs too much because I did not put the work in to give myself that title. But I rap on occasion, and it might have started out as a poem as well. So I think it's a challenge. Sometimes I wish I was good. I only did one thing because then I wouldn't have that struggle sometimes, which sounds, you know. But sometimes really great things comes
Yeah.
out of it, out of the debate.
Yeah, I really
The inter-
appreciate I like how, it's just another layer, when you're performing a poem and then you break out singing and it's like, oh, okay, that's where we going with it. And then you jump right back into the poem. It's like, I like how this is stacked. I like the feeling it's giving and it's really dope.
Thank you. I mean, the music side of it. Um, yeah, I love singing. I love it as much as I love poetry, but I love singing, and so being able to do it. That was what made the album I just released in this last year, Poetry Month.
Yeah.
It features that poem I did, "Kind of Love," and that was my first time getting a singer on a song. I was like, this is so
Wow. Yeah.
interesting. I'm used to singing on my song, and my homegirl D Woods, who was formerly in Danny
Yeah.
Duquesne and as an actress and an amazing just artist altogether, dancer, all of that. And I was like, hey girl, you want to do this poem? I feel like we talked about this before, kind of like poking at love and stuff. And she was like, yeah, girl. And it was interesting sitting back and just watching somebody make music, like instead of me
Right,
doing
right,
it,
yeah.
and she came up with a hook, and watching her kind of go through the ad lib she wanted to do over the it was just a different experience. So I'm learning how to collaborate and how to like try to get more collaborative opportunities in things that I think I can do because I'm so used to doing
Right,
everything.
yeah.
And it was really cool to kind of sit back and like, oh, the hook is done. You have to do
Right.
it.
Speaking of collaboration, I know that you mentioned open mics, and we had the pandemic, so a lot of open mics were via Zoom or whatever, Instagram Live, Facebook Live. Now that everything is open back up, how was the transition? And have you done any open mics since then, or been any open mics since everything kind of opened back up? And if so, what was the transition like from being on screen to back in the crowd?
I think the only challenge that I've had was being in a room with people because I was still like,
Yeah,
yo, hold on, get some sick. But other than that
yeah.
part, none. I mean, so I think, and it took me like later in my years, I realized this. My foundation in radio
Uh,
made this such an easy
yeah.
transition. I'm used to just in general, and this is something I also like when I work with young people when they're like, "Oh, this audience," da, 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 da," I don't need an audience to hype myself up. I don't need people in a room. I don't need their energy. My energy. There's definitely like there is like good
Yeah,
energy that
yeah, I
can
know what you
also
mean.
like
Yeah.
lift
Yeah.
it. Not to take away from that, but I am just happy to be here. And so I'm used to that, and I realized like, oh yeah, in radio, you are sitting in a room by yourself. Like, good morning. You're listening to WPNR 90.7 FM. It is the morning. You don't know if anyone's listening
Right.
to you. This is college radio. You don't know if anyone's tuned in. You are in a room by yourself. I have no one to draw energy off of. And so that translated to me performing at a bar where I don't know if the drunk people at the bar that are taking shots are listening to my
Yeah.
poem or, or being online and, having to like be in a room, an empty room and just talking to a camera. So for me, it back and forth in and out, I don't think it really impacted me. It did make me appreciate community, being in community with people in person and hugging
Oh
folk and
yeah.
realizing how long it's been since you've seen somebody. Even if you've seen them online a billion times, it just feels different. So that was the thing that I really did look forward to coming back. And I don't get to stop by as many open mics. A lot more times, the open mics I stop by are ones that have a live band, just because usually I'm doing poems all the time. So that's how I kind of get to keep my voice warm. So I'm usually at those kind of
Oh,
open
okay,
mics
yeah.
more. But definitely stopping by and seeing what other people are working on and supporting people and doing features at spots that, just because it's the homies,
Yeah, yeah.
it means a lot to me. So I do those kind of spaces a lot.
Okay, yeah. Because I found that interesting. I had one of my guests, and he was saying how just like during that time, everything was just flowing. He was sitting, waiting maybe 30, 40 minutes on his turn on live, and he get out there and perform. And then now that things are kind of open back up, and he's married now and has a son, it's kind of slowed down. But I had him on an episode, and it's not like he missed a beat. And he said he still loves it. He doesn't know if he'll be performing anytime, but just supporting other artists is still there, and the love for it is still there. But he was like, that time during the pandemic when everybody was reaching out, and like I said earlier, the lives all the time and this and that, he said he couldn't get enough of it. So that's why I asked that, just to see if that's, even though I know you were doing it before, but I just wanted to see if there were any differences in between the two.
And, I mean, creatively, there were
Yeah.
differences. I definitely had way more space to
Yeah.
create because I was home. I didn't have to travel. there was a lot more like opportunity for self-care
Yeah.
during the pandemic that I think a lot of people missed, where we did slow down, where you could be like, I have a sickness. And they'd be like, fine,
Yeah.
don't work today. Like people understood more. I think that there was just a lot of space that we were able to create because the world slowed
Right.
down at one point in time. And yeah, I could just jump on a live or jump on at the time Clubhouse, throwback,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Matter of fact, that's where we
did
met
a few
at.
open
Yeah.
mics on
Yeah.
that. but but yeah, I think it is different. I also think the community is different coming back because I think a lot of places are trying to like get their legs back and figure out and there's a big disconnect, You had a regular following every week. And now do people go out as much?
Yeah.
Do people want to spend the money? People like venues are trying to catch up for the money that they lost, and things are more expensive. And so sometimes I think that also impacts. I know that impacts me. Like there are times where I'm like, oh, okay, if I go there, I gotta put gas in the car. I
Yeah.
gotta,
Yeah.
it becomes a thing. So usually, if I go to something, it's like you said, I'm supporting the homies. Somebody's doing something or things like that. Or for me, I travel a lot, so I'm not always here. But I think we just have to figure out what the next iteration of the poetry community is going to look like. Poetry slam, the national slam, definitely like that dismantling kind of, definitely disconnected us
Yeah.
too because we'd all come together. All of the venues, had a team, and those are all things that were also pre-pandemic and were kind of being navigated. And now we only have WOWPS, the Women of the World Slam. It's the only real way for people to connect. So I don't know, we gotta find more ways to connect each other.
That's so true. What's one thing you would like to see happen for poetry next?
I would love for poetry. I would love for poetry and hip hop to be way more together. Like this is just me,
Yeah.
it's might be this, but I think poetry is still seen as a other. It's still a new contemporary genre. Like I think that that's something that people like us that are in the world and understand, like are in the poetry world, we have a love for it that people are just
Yeah.
getting. Um, and people, it's funny. I performed somewhere at a corporate event. It had nothing, nothing creative. I was the only creative thing there. Um, I do a lot of conferences, like opening conferences and stuff. And this lady was like, "Yeah, I see you channeling your inner Amanda Gorman." like,
No.
and it's just
Wow.
like, yo, but I think that there's spaces. I
Yeah.
think there's room for like big concerts featuring all these big MCs and having different poets from different, like there that energy. And I mean, I see some of it.
Yeah.
Like you look at JIV's album, and he has so many amazing artists. Look, Queen Sheba's album, she's so many, just Robert Glasper on
Yeah.
there. So we see it fusing, but I just would love to see it more, and I would love it to still not be new.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I'd love us to have the same respect of the legacy of poetry that we do for hip hop. The way we like honor the Run DMCs, like do we honor not just the Maya Angelou's, like do we honor Ursula Rucker? Do we honor,
Yeah.
or even like the newer class that's coming in, do they know who Aja Monet is? Do they know who Mahogany Brown is? Do they know who Amir Suleiman is? Like, these are people that like really impacted the world with their work and impacted the community. Like I'd love to see that kind of love that we see when we do a 50 year of hip hop honors.
Yeah.
To do that for poets too.
Oh man, that's beautiful. Yeah, I would love to see that. Yeah.
Sirens, that's how you know I'm in tri-state.
Man, yeah. I'm kind of speechless after that one. That that would be really, really dope. Yeah.
And that's the other,
No,
sorry,
no, go
not to
ahead.
even do that. That's the other thing I think that the pandemic also impacted. It was like a break. And so there's all of these people that came into poetry on their own in their homes. And then as soon as we opened up, came out and think that what they're doing is new because there was no continuity that was passed down.
Yeah.
That break, also broke the legacy, and broke the passing down of torch, broke the like connections between each other, and so there is a whole generation of young writers who really be thinking that they the first one to create a
Yeah.
poem like this, or to, do an event, or do a thing. And I don't blame
Of
them for
course.
not,
Yeah.
like, people are like, they should Google, and I don't, come
Yeah.
on, I wasn't sitting here like, let me see who came before me. I can't say everybody was doing that. Let's be real. But I think that there's just a natural disconnect, because of all of the disconnect of the communities, and because of COVID and people just building things on their own in their house and their homes, or maybe going on Button Poetry and peeking at that and thinking that that's the only thing that exists. And so that's something else that I think the pandemic did impact, is just being able to really, it put a big
Yeah.
break,
I believe so too. Yeah.
big hole.
Before I let you get out of here, do you have any closing words? And also, I mean, you said a lot in this last couple of minutes, but if you have any closing words, and also anything coming up that you would like to share, your socials, your YouTube channel, anything you want to share with us before you get out of here, go ahead.
Well, definitely. Well, first things first, all things are about me and more are on ShanelleGabriel.com. If you go there, everything is there. I'm on Instagram primarily. I just started doing TikToks. I'm doing the TikTok. That's how you know I'm older. You start saying
Right.
putting the in front of things. Uh, no, but I'm just trying to just find new ways to get my work out there, and then that's one of it. I do have shows coming up in different places. I'll be in Atlanta on the 21st. I don't know when this is coming out, but I'll be in Atlanta on the 21st. I have a couple of things just kind of scattered, and things pop up all the time. But if you sign up for my email list, you will definitely get an email knowing when things are happening. I have three babies. They're my albums.
Yes.
I have three albums that I have given birth to, and they're all available on all streaming platforms. Feel free to check it out. A couple music videos on there too. Just people might be curious and stay around. I also do a lot of consulting around arts education. That's what my primary focus is, outside of just the arts. So that and speaking about lupus, definitely contact me if you have any questions about either of those things. If you want to know more about lupus, or if you want to know how I can support the work that you're doing, by bringing some arts educational practices in there. So definitely ChanelleGabriel.com. And I think everybody just, I appreciate you having me here. And this was really, really great talking with you and conversing with you. And I'm really wishing your podcast much success, continued success. Thank you for loving on the genre by taking the time to create this.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you coming on. And to my listeners, remember, keep pushing forward. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Brown Sugar Cafe podcast. Once again, I'm your host, Terrence P. Elmore, and this is the place where poetry meets conversation. Hit that follow button and turn on your notifications so you won't miss an episode. Check out my blog, thebrownsugarcafe.blog. Also connect with me on Instagram at thebrownsugarcafe. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and as always, remember, keep pushing forward.